Hey family, today's guest, Adriana Gascoigne, is someone who I dearly love. Not only do I serve on her board of Girls in Tech, I serve at her altar of just human compassion. If you check out Wikipedia, here's what it's going to say about Adriana. She is an American technology executive and activist, the founder and chief executive officer of Girls in Tech. Girls in Tech is a global nonprofit dedicated to empowering, educating, and mentoring women in technology and in the industry at large. Now, I met Adriana through the introduction of a couple of my execs who were quite impressed with her. She sent me this book she's written, which is available for each of you to read as well. And we're sharing that content as well as how to get in touch with Girls in Tech later. But right now, I'm excited for us to share Adriana's journey. She's the daughter of immigrants, and she just has such a global perspective, and she brings so much joy to every conversation. So I'm looking forward to you meeting her and learning to love her and get Girls in Tech just as I do. Come on.
Joining us right now is one of America's most successful female entrepreneurs.
Special guest speaker today, the first African-American woman
to own a billion-dollar company. Her name is
Janice Bryant Howroyd. She's the founder and CEO of
Act One is one of the largest staffing companies in the United States.
She's now ranked by Forbes as second wealthiest self-made African-American woman in America, behind only Ms. Oprah Winfrey.
She spent almost 40 years helping others find work.
Janice, great to have you on the show.
Wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much
Wonderful.
for joining us.
Janice, welcome to the program.
Janice, what about your
Wow, Adriana, I'm so glad to have you here. I promised our guests so much. Our family, that's what we call our listening audience, are prepped up to hear all about Girls in Tech, about you getting back from Australia. You've been here since early October, and now you're in Oakland with all the fires. Just your incredible journey forward. But what I didn't promise them and didn't know we were going to get is Taco. Tell us about Taco.
So this is a Cavapoo puppy. He's 8 weeks old, and we've been wanting a dog for a little while, but we've been traveling. Actually, well, before COVID-19, we were sort of stuck in Australia. So we had a lot of time to do research on a hypoallergenic breed that is well-mannered and conducive to a certain type of household, right? So we don't have a backyard. We have a lot of parks, but not a backyard. So this is a smaller breed. And so, yeah, we welcomed him to our home last night, and he's a great little addition. Taco Minto.
I'm so glad Taco is able to join us. And look, Taco may have joined you last night, but wow, Taco looks really well rested in your arms. Did Taco spend the night with you, or is Taco in a more structured training and welcome environment?
So I've had many dogs in my life, and the last dog I had, I crate trained, and it was very, very difficult. It was a Siberian Husky, and he would cry and howl all night long. And so with Taco, because he's so little, and he had to go on like 2 flights yesterday, we decided to just let him sleep at our feet, just to be like warm and cuddly and make his transition to living in a new house, a new environment with new people. So,
well, welcome, Taco. Welcome, Taco.
He's asleep.
Taco had to make a few flights. You had to get out of Australia in COVID as well and get back home. How did you plan for that, girl?
It's been quite an adventure, quite a journey. So it was, we were waiting for my husband's visa, and he was trying to secure the spouse visa to get back to the US so that he can work here. But unfortunately, the US Embassy was closing down, it closed down 3 or 4 times. So we had to continue to reschedule our meetings. And similarly, my flights were being canceled. I think they were canceled like 6 times. So we were stuck. And the Australian government, not sure how much you know about them, but it's a nanny state. So they're very, very strict and had all of these rules and regulations. We had to get exemption letters from the government, even though I'm not even an Australian citizen. to come back to the US. So it was a strenuous process. I've actually been out of the country for almost a year. So I left the US November 16th, 2019, and I just got back on October 6th.
How long did you plan to be out?
Just through the holidays.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, listen, you are back. You are in Oakland, one of the most beautiful places in the world. And I know you're feeling a little precarious with all of the fires happening in California, but it is so good to have you home, even though I can't run and hug you and we can't meet up face to face.
Thanks so much, Janice.
Listen, there are a couple of things I really want to make sure we talk about today, though, girl. One of them is girls in tech. We got to dig into that because one of the greatest joys of my professional career is having been introduced by Stacy and Peter to you and to Girls in Tech. Before we take that journey, I want my family to understand how it is that you got to there. Let's talk a little bit about your upbringing and your background and where you're from, your mom and dad, your hood you grew up in. Let's get to know you a little bit. And then I think they'll better appreciate why you're so incredibly leading Girls in Tech.
Well, thanks so much, Janice. I do truly feel that a lot of who I am today was because of the way that I was brought up and the cultures that I was exposed to at a very young age. So starting off, my mom is from Mexico City, and she's half Mexican, half Japanese. And my father is American with a combination of sort of European Mexican background.
Wow, did they create an incredible gene pool for you? Whether we're talking about the mind, the body, the spirit, it all combined beautifully. Let me tell you, diversity rules.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, they're great parents who taught me some wonderful values. And I think one of the main things that I was exposed to is my cultures at a really young age. So I was blessed to be able to visit Japan a lot as a youngster and got to meet my family over there and connect with them. I even took some Japanese courses to learn the language. I was partially raised in Mexico City, so I was exposed to my family there. I speak Spanish, and that culture is very present in my family, my upbringing. So it's we have a lot of opportunities to eat amazing Mexican food. And
can you cook amazing Mexican food?
I like to cook Mexican food, yeah, like chile rellenos and enchiladas, and yeah, so.
Oh God. Well, yeah. Listen, you can get all variations living in Southern California as I do, but we do know good Mexican food when we know good Mexican food, right?
Yes, for sure. California does it well. Yeah.
Where were you born actually?
I was born in LA. So I was in San Pedro in Los Angeles, as you well know. It's right near where you are.
Right.
So I was born in the Queen of Angels Hospital, and I was actually born on Mother's Day, 1977. Aging myself, but it was a nice, I think, Mother's Day present to my mom. And it's a very sort of special day for both of us, since, sometimes Mother's Day falls on May 8th. So, yeah.
Growing up in LA has its own charms. You've traveled the world, and even as a youngster, you got to enjoy Japan, Mexico, and LA. I wouldn't say LA is necessarily the flavor of the US, but so much of what happens in the US is predicted by California. When you think back on growing up, do you recognize any particular distinctions in those three distinct cultures that help to breed you forward to this leader of Girls in Tech, which is a globally successful initiative?
Well, that's a great question. I actually cover it in my book on the first chapter of the book.
And even though I gave the name of your book, make sure you let us know right now what it is for our listeners who didn't catch it.
Sure. It's called Tech Boss Lady. and it's available on Amazon and many other platforms.
And I got my personal copy.
Yeah. Yeah, and really the cultures that influenced me the most are definitely the Japanese and Mexican. The Japanese culture really helps with working hard and having discipline and willpower. Really enables you to focus and encourages you to be a high achiever. And there's a lot of entrepreneurialism within my family. My grandpa came from Japan on a cargo ship, and he wanted a better life for himself. So he came here without a business in mind. He just said, I'm going to the United States and I'm going to build a business, see what's out there for me. And he couldn't.
Did his ship land in San Pedro? Did it? I should say dock in San Pedro?
It did dock in San Pedro.
Wow.
And I believe that was in 1932, if I'm not mistaken. And then he unfortunately couldn't get a work visa in the US, so he went to Mexico, south of the border, to find success. And that's how he met my grandma. But I would say that side of it is just the more the ambitious, working hard, stay disciplined. And then my grandma's side was all about, the Mexican side was all about unconditional love, giving back, paying it forward, giving to those less fortunate than yourself. And so the very altruistic, philanthropic side came from my grandma. You know, she helped orphans, and she's helped people that you didn't have food on their table or to have a place to sleep. So I was able to grow up with that and have her as a role model, in addition to my parents, who are very altruistic people.
You know, Adriana, when we think about how your grandma influenced you and what you must have seen as a kid, because you grew up in a really beautiful part of Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. However, you also can't live in LA without being exposed to all the elements of our culture. Mm-hmm. What are you thinking now, as even though you're in Oakland, what do you think Oakland shares a lot of LA culture type? What are you thinking now as you're seeing where we are? I mean, for the first time in history, we're all globally solving for the same solution at the same time. Mm-hmm. And around this pandemic, we're all socially woke to social justice and the impact each of those are having on our economy. It's a really dynamic time in our history for such a young woman with such a vast experience. How are you feeling, and what are you seeing right now? I mean, are you leaving your door in Oakland? Are you seeing stuff?
Yeah, we're not seeing stuff as much in Oakland. I think there were a lot of, protests and whatnot before I arrived from Australia, but going through the center of town, downtown area on Broadway and Telegraph, there are a lot of just boards. All of the shops and restaurants are boarded up. All the markets are boarded up. And people have used those boards to share really empowering messages of why social justice and human rights are important, why equality and equity matter in this world, not just in the tech field, and why everyone should be respected. It doesn't matter who you are, the color of your skin, what gender you are, what your sexual preference is. And so that's very sort of loud and clear in Oakland. And I think, with the election right around the corner, people are becoming a lot more vocal about it, and the sort of need to have a leader in place that really values that decency and integrity and supports equality and equity for everyone. And as the leader of the free world as well, we need to have that kind of representation that really instills the message around the world that we really care, that we're really empathetic people, not that we are exploiting relationships around the world so that we can become more powerful and have more money. But it's more about how we help others in the world so we can all lift each other up together and be a better human race together. Right.
That is so thematically a part of who you are, even from our first meeting, our first conversation. When I see you, and I feel all motherly towards you, right? 77, oh my God, you're a baby. when I see you, and I don't have to look far to see many, your American family was founded by immigrants, as so many, but yours more recent immigrants. And I know my husband immigrated to America from Europe. He was a citizen before I met him, so he didn't marry me for the citizenship. But he in all ways was an immigrant and very appreciative of his American citizenship. When I see you and I see someone who can touch her immigrant heritage, the first steps to America so intimately through your grandparents, how does that frame, do you think, your perspective? And is that in and of itself enough to frame it? Or have you been impacted by other stories as well?
I think the immigrant story has definitely impacted everything about my job, how I think, what I value, the relationships that I have, and so much more. I think my mom coming from Mexico City and starting a business from scratch and really serving as an amazing role model. Really, you can do anything you want in life. If you just work hard and put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. And, she showed me the ropes, and, we grew up sort of helping her travel agency as well, just doing small things. Like I would draw the flyers and pass them out on cars and things to create awareness. And I think those values of being an immigrant actually really aligned with the values of being an entrepreneur, right? So pull up your bootstraps, be very resourceful, be grateful for what you have, work very, very hard. What you put into it, you get out of it, type of thing. So I do think it aligns really nicely, and I do cover it in the book as well. But also, one of the main reasons I started Girls in Tech was because I had those entrepreneurial values, and I know what it took to start something. It wasn't easy. And at the beginning, I was doing it all on my own, like a hobby. And it wasn't until 2015 did I decide to put all my chips in, because I knew that I couldn't get the organization to where it needed to be unless I did it full time. 100% of my time and effort was dedicated to Girls in Tech. And that's when it started really sort of skyrocketing. And we started developing and delivering more programs, launching more chapters around the world, establishing our board of directors, which we're so lucky to have you as part of, so on and so forth. It's been a phenomenal journey, and we've just sort of scratched the surface, and we're doing a lot more now with the DE&I space, which is very exciting.
So Girls in Tech, I promise we talk about it. Why don't you just, to make sure we're all listening in the same way, share with us the Girls in Tech story. I mean, I know, it started out as a hobby for you, and then it became a habit for you, and now it's a habitat for so many girls who really want to occupy in the tech space. But if you can just really give us just that, that introduction to Girls in Tech, the way our family needs to know if they're interested to learn more.
Sure, of course, happy to. So I launched the organization in 2007. So it's been around for over 13 years. And I was working at a startup that was much like Netflix and YouTube combined. So a little bit before its time, I was spearheading product marketing, and I really enjoyed it. I loved the scrums. I loved developing new products, testing them out, and understanding what our consumers wanted, and really iterating fast and developing things fast. And I was learning as I was growing and actually executing, which is such a fun way to work, really, because a lot of the things that we did were sort of spaghetti on the wall. And if you had a great idea, we could actually do it and test it out. So I loved it. But the only issue was that I was the only female at that company. At one point, there was a female receptionist, and then she left. Not surprised about that, but so it ended up being me. And There was several situations that happened, I won't go into detail, that were uncomfortable in the workforce. And so the CEO's solution was basically putting me on the other side of the floor. I had a beautiful office overlooking the Bay Bridge, but I was separated from the whole team. And he just wanted to do that so that I would.
Oh, so hold on, Adriana. So I know you don't want to go into a lot of detail, and you know I'm respectful of that. I do got to ask you, girl, the solution to the issues you were having was to move you.
Correct. That is 100% correct. So they moved me to an office with a door on the other side of the floor, far away, like isolated. Nobody was around. You know, it was not and as a marketer, I need to interact with the engineers.
I don't know whether to cry or to scream on that. I'm sorry, or both. But it's obvious you made the right decision ultimately. But yeah, please. Okay, so you're on the other side. You got a great view, but you're not a part of the action. Okay, go on.
Yeah, so I knew that was wrong. You know, it wasn't something that I was comfortable with. And after speaking to my superiors, the executives, they still didn't want to deal with it the way that they should. Not surprisingly, it's very sort of male-dominated culture. There was no HR department. There was nobody who really cared. And then so
there was no JBH there for you.
No JBH to help support and provide advice and guidance. But I think the silver lining was that after all of these crazy experiences, I decided to start Girls in Tech, and it was going to just be like a networking event. And a friend who is now on our board of directors, Jonathan Abrams, he owned a club called Slide. And he said, why don't you just use the club and see who shows up, and you can start from there. And I said, the great idea. And so on a weekday.
Hey, Adrian, before we go forward, you bring up something that I do think is an important point, because so many of our girls in tech are listening as well to this podcast. Here's the thing. While your experience and the experience of many others right now, which is why Girls in Tech is so critical to grow, is that STEM is a very male-dominated area. There are, I don't want these girls to feel that what they see from many men in tech is the experience they will have from all men outside of tech, and everybody can be an agent to the journey. When you speak about the owner of Slide stepping up and saying, take my space, bringing you back into the center of the room, even as you've been pushed to the other end of the floor in your own company, there's a lot of symbolism in that. And I think we can't progress the story too much without speaking to that, because you and I both know we've individually had men to support who we are, and collectively we have men who really do care about women in STEM as a part and a contributor to Girls in Tech. I think it's really important. I think it's also important, though, and perhaps equally important, that the way you manage that circumstance and your willingness to speak to the need is what really got you the help you needed. Nobody was standing there with a handout. You still had to speak it forward.
Yeah, I did. And it was, due to that experience. And actually my friend, TJ, he was basically my only friend at that company, happens to be a gay man. And, I would talk to him every day about his experiences, which were not too dissimilar from mine. And he was also uncomfortable at times. And I told him, I sort of pitched the idea. He's like, do it. You have to do it. It's awesome. What's the worst that can happen? You don't move forward, and that's it, right? Just try it. You don't know until you try. And so he gave me a lot of encouragement and support, and just serve as like a friend so that I could talk to him about things. And that first event, we had 200 women attend in San Francisco. And
how did you announce it out? What was your network like, and how did you get 200 women into that space? I mean, were they coming because they knew the club? Were they coming because you did some heavy marketing because you have an expertise in that? Or just how did you get 200 women first time?
So it was basically because of Facebook. And Facebook opened up to the world around the 2007 timeframe. And we started marketing the actual event. And then also Eventbrite launched around that same time. So we had a ticketing service that was also very social friendly. And so we had a lot of just early technology support that helped spread the word, but it was also word of mouth. So a lot of people from my network and their friends really wanted to invite all of these sort of movers and shakers and people that were interested in supporting an organization like Girls in Tech, because back in 2006, 2007, you had two kinds of organizations. One for older women, executive women who have achieved their success and they're sort of like wine and cheese networking mixers, or it was more for youth. So young girls, probably middle school age, elementary school, high school, and there wasn't one for this demographic of early to mid-level career women. And that's the area I really wanted to help support, where women are eager, ambitious, they want to learn, they want to grow, they want to seek out new and interesting opportunities and tackle them. And some of them want to be entrepreneurs, right? So we want to encourage that. If you have a great product idea, we want to support you to get to that point, whether it's, you know, getting the skills of growth hacking, finding out how to pitch a venture capitalist, or build financial models, right? We want to make sure that you're supported.
So this first meeting of Girls in Tech with 200 in attendance wasn't a wine and cheese old lady event kind of thing, my crew, but what, actually your crew is more my crew, but what was it then? What happened at that first event?
It was powerful, Janice. It was really electric and magical are the two words that I would explain it as. And it was, you know, women helping women, empowering, sharing ideas, coming together, offering up opportunities, whether it was mentorship or we have an open job opportunity at the startup, or collaborate on new ideas, or even sharing things like, hey, there's this resource on this new educational program that I think would help benefit you in your career, right? So it was really, and you know this, it's the je ne sais quoi of getting lots of women in a room. It's like when we're together.
It started the way you've evolved it. I mean, that's the same thing that's happening now, just more dynamically.
Correct. And you see it with the women's marches, you see it all the rallies with these great conferences, and it's powerful. I'm getting goosebumps now just talking about it.
Yeah.
It's
how are we doing? And I know this, but just share with the family. How are we doing during COVID, and what's the biggest outreach need that we have right now?
Yeah, so we're doing really well, and we've had to pivot, as you know, the whole business model and our programming model to all digital. So it's been a fun experiment. Most of our programs, knock on wood, have been sold out, oversold even, and we've introduced new programs like the Digital Career Fair, our virtual mentorship program, our virtual hackathons, and we did one on combating COVID-19, which was, we had more than 700 people in attendance, and we had around 72 apps
right
built for the frontline workers. So doctors, health, nurses, administrators, to really help support them in their efforts.
Hey, Adriana, I've shared how to get in touch with Girls in Tech already, and I'll be sharing it at the finish of our conversation. What I want you to talk about a little bit that I think can be so helpful right now is what are some of the things that we're teaching our girls that help them during COVID, not just to go through it, but to grow through it. You know, that's my mantra right now. Let's not just go through this, let's grow through it together.
Right.
What are some of the things that you're sharing with these girls? And then I want you to talk a little bit about the girls themselves before we gotta, you know, unfortunately leave this conversation.
Yeah, so we've over the years really listened, and I would just really emphasize, put that word in bold and underline it. And Taco's squirming a little, sorry.
Let Taco come back up. Taco wants to share this message. Let Taco come back up. Oh. Oh, yeah, snuggle as you need. Go ahead. But what are we sharing? What are we sharing?
Yeah, so you know, we're really focused on trying to level up the skills of women within the STEM fields so that they can become more marketable and competitive in the workforce. And we also
So we're upskilling,
helping level the playing field, providing them with career development opportunities and job placement opportunities, not just in tech companies, but startups and other corporations.
well, every company has
Any
need for
company.
tech because every company is a tech company
That's
today.
correct. That's correct.
What are some of the survival things you're teaching our girls to help them emotionally and spiritually? You know, when you start to look at some of the statistics, and I know you're very, much in your head, it's boggling to see how many young women are going through, we refer to it as spiritual holistically, but they're going through some emotional disconnects and some issues. How are we helping our girls?
Yeah, so we actually introduced a new masterclass series on wellness. And this wellness program has a variety of different types of lectures that really do support mental wellness, emotional wellness, and gives a better understanding of ways that you can take control during this really uncertain time, this really difficult time where we don't know when the end will come of COVID-19, right? And a lot of people are unemployed, people are losing loved ones. And so we wanted to provide this to, help things like meditation and stretching, have a better understanding of how to leverage your resources online to educate yourself or find a new job, really relax and understand how to deal with anxiety and deal with some mental issues even. And we've hired and brought on some of the greatest experts around the world to help teach these courses and provide that support that the community needs, not just in the US, but around the world.
Because we're touching how many countries with girls in tech right now?
We're in 37 countries, in 54 cities, and in 6 continents. So
yeah. The reach is just incredible, and yet it's so powerfully intimate for each of the girls, and that's something that's not been easily achieved by lots of organizations. And going right back to that impact of your upbringing, those immigrant parents and grandparents who taught you values that are universal.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we got to do the 4 for 4. Okay. So the family's really familiar and they look forward to this part of our conversation. So here we go, Adriana. Okay. If you could invite 4 people from history, any point live or transcended, to dinner, who would they be and why?
Interesting. 4. Okay, so I think the first would be Aung San Suu Kyi. And I think her story is pretty amazing. She's a very selfless woman who helped or is trying to bring democracy to Myanmar. I know there has been some controversy, but I think she really wanted to give back to her people. And I feel her act of, sacrificing her whole life in England, even her family, to be in Myanmar to help out and support people in the movement, the democratic movement, is really inspiring. So I think she would be somebody I definitely hold in high regard.
Who's at the table with her and you?
Yeah, so the other one is I think would be in a lot of people's 4s. That's Oprah. And I've actually met Oprah at the Oprah O conference, a big conference she used to do in the US. And this happened to be in San Francisco one year. And I was working at Intel, and Intel sponsored the conference, and she was like right there. She's a powerhouse, like extremely inspirational, extremely knowledgeable, very kind and compassionate, And she made
First time I met her, she met with a hug. Her arms were outreached. And while it was in a home, it was still so powerful because it was a pretty big home with a lot of people there. But it was just a powerful, powerful welcome, huh?
amazing. Yeah. I really look up to her. I think she is a beautiful human, and her stories from rags to riches is really inspiring as well. So that would be Oprah. And I think another one, because this is really random, so you're probably going to laugh, but I really respect comedians. I think being a comedian is one of the hardest professions, but one of the most important professions, because it really does help us laugh and laugh.
And comedians teach us that a lot of comedy comes from pain.
Correct.
From deep journeys.
Yes, and life experiences, some very tragic. So I really love Dave Chappelle, and I know he's also somewhat controversial at times, but I think he's also had an amazing life story, and he is one of those people who picks up his bootstraps and really started with nothing and worked really hard to get where he's at. I've seen him live.
And started over and over.
And over and over, you're right. He's also a good friend to a lot of people. So I know somebody who owns it's called Temple. It's a place where they have concerts and stand up. And he'll just show up and do surprise visits because his friend owns it. And, he'll just do it out of the goodness of his heart to test out new material. And he's just a good friend to people. So I think, good friendships are hard to come by, and loyal friendships are hard to come by. So I really do appreciate that about him.
So who's the fourth person at this dinner, girl?
Let's see.
All of your folks are still alive too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Back in history at all.
Yeah, most definitely. Let's see. The fourth, I think that's hard because there's just so many amazing people. I think it would have to be, someone in the science fields. There's so many amazing psychologists, maybe like a Freud or an Einstein, just to pick at their brains and really understand how they got to where they're at.
That's awesome. I thought you were going to go with Madame Curie, but you went with that's awesome.
Well, yeah, I think psychology.
Who is it, Freud or Einstein? Who?
I think probably Einstein, because he's a great inventor, great thinker. I think a lot of these
and really cool hair.
Yeah, really cool hair, and same with philosophers. I just find that a lot of these thoughts that were originated early.
Hey, and listen, when I say really cool hair, I don't just say that casually. Yeah. I come from a culture where we use our hair very expressively. Yeah. And there are very few Black women who I know who especially my personal friends, who when we walk up to each other, we can pretty much tell what you're feeling right now about what your hair looks like right now. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
But even outside of Black culture, I look at people, male, female, and you can see where a person is by their hair a lot of times, how they choose to wear their hair. Yeah, so when I say Einstein's hair, it was out there like the thinking.
Yeah, totally. And to that vein, Poppy Northcutt, Mae Jemison, astronauts worked on Apollo 8. Those women are superstars. They've both spoken at the Girls in Tech conference.
Right.
Just absolutely amazing women sharing their stories of trials and tribulations and what they accomplished.
Girl, but you didn't invite them to dinner. Your dinner table is popping, though. Hey, look, I'm going to serve at that dinner because I want to see. John Hope Bryant had quite a table, too. I offered to serve at his dinner so I could be in the room. That's awesome. That's 1 for 4. Now we got to do 2 for 4. Okay. What is the best advice you can offer someone right now? 4 pieces of advice, whether shared with you and why, or coming direct from you and why.
So right now, something that's relevant in present time. Let's see. So I would say, due to COVID, there have been a lot of life changes and a lot of different challenges that people are currently experiencing. So I would say, first off, like the British saying goes, just stay calm. Take a deep breath and stay calm, and this too shall pass. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But I think
my husband, who's all-time British, would say, Norman Saxon British, he would always tell us, stay calm and fight fierce.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that we only should worry about the things we can control in life, and this is something we can't control, so we just have to ride the wave and just work with what we have and try to find gratitude in everything that we do.
So one is stay calm, two is gratitude.
Yeah. 3 is keep in touch with your friends and family. People stay connected with the positive ones. You don't have to stay connected with the negative ones. Even if they're family, they can really bring you down. So I really do believe in that. Like Zoom and Skype and all of the other platforms that are out there have really helped facilitate that. And
well, Girls in Tech, come on, tech platform
and
is
Girls
very
in Tech as well, for sure. And
what's number 4?
Let's see. Number 4 is to go out in nature. Spend time as much as possible in the nature. A lot of times we're so busy and we forget what nature can provide us. Breathing the fresh air, looking at plants, looking at flowers, looking at trees, doing hikes, exercising, being around people and animals, interacting with them even from afar.
It helps me so much. I live out in a very rural space. I was sharing with Nathan as you went to get taco that I'm looking at which dog to get as well. Now is a good time for me. And well, my daughter was suggesting that a small dog might have issues out where I live because, we're full of raccoon, coyote. It's a horse country. But some pets really do want to be inside as well and go out with escorts. So I'm thinking on that right now. I'll let you know though, girl. Hey, look, let's go for 3 for 4.
Okay,
what are you reading right now? And what are the greatest books you want to share with someone else? 4.
Oh, wow. That's a good one and a hard one too.
It is hard. It is hard.
So I'm currently slowly reading Untamed. And that book is really focused on women just taking advantage and never saying no to getting what they want out of their dreams and their ambitions. And I'm not done with it, but I love what I'm reading so far, and I think it is really inspirational and empowering for women of all ages. So I highly recommend that. There's a book that came out a few years ago called The Hillbilly Elegy, and I really think, just like Van Jones, I'm a huge believer in learning about other types of people in the country, showing tolerance and acceptance of every American, not just
reading the belt buckle. I read the hair. Some people read the belt buckle and the shoes.
Yeah, and I think it's great. I think it's important. So I find a lot of great stories and anecdotes within that book, and I just love the way that it was written. So I think that I definitely recommend that one. Let's see, what's the other ones that I've read recently? Actually, there's a couple that I read that are nonfiction, fiction, and I'll have to get you the name, but I read them while I was in Australia, and one was a journey of an Indian prince and his wife and their 2 kids that were twins, and there was a coup d'etat, and then the orphaned twins had to figure out how to survive on their own. And so while it was fiction.
Wow, that's so amazing. We're going to have to get the name of that book and share it. We'll share it in our socials, okay?
Yeah, I'll have to grab that book. And I think, let's see, another book that, one that I really loved was Brene Brown's Dare to Lead. I think she's a fantastic lady and also somebody with great experiences and situations that occurred in her life, and she really learned from them. And a lot of what I learned in the book or read about in the book, I actually do for Girls in Tech staff today.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we have rumbles and brainstorms, and we have different exercises that really help us connect.
I can't think of a better recommendation for a book than to say, look at what it's doing with, I'm doing with it. That's awesome, girl. Hey, look, we got to 4 to 4. Here we go. What are you listening to and why? Music.
Oh, music, okay. So I typically listen to Latin rock. Latin rock is a genre which they call rock en español, group called Bomba Estéreo, and another one called Monsieur Periné. And those are basically like Colombian, and they mix indigenous with pop with, you know, some Latin beats, and I just love it. It's just so fun to listen to. I also like house music. That really helps me work fast. And I enjoy a lot of like great playlists that they have on Spotify. I also listen to a lot of podcasts. So right now I'm listening to Podcast America and, what is it called? It's a political podcast. And it's just really, really, really awesome. I also listen to the Girls in Tech podcast, and it's been great to build that and to get to listen to some phenomenal leaders within the STEM fields.
Do you do any TV, or are you all social platform media?
So right now we're not doing TV. We have in the past. We do a lot of promotions via social media, via YouTube. Obviously, we have our podcast.
I mean, are you watching any TV?
Oh, watching TV. Yes, definitely. I can't tell a lie. So I really watch Netflix and some shows on Amazon Prime. I like that new show from Mark Ruffalo. And there's one called The Vow. Like, I like documentary style shows.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And there's just so many great ones on Netflix and Amazon Prime.
But look, you've shared a lot of great stuff with us, and congratulations, you made it through 4 for 4. Oh, wow. You did swell. You did swell.
So much.
Before, I know that you got a lot going on. You shared with me before we started, you know, how busy it is. Is there anything else you want to share before we hug each other off of this conversation?
Yeah, so we love working with partners and companies that want to support girls in tech and the cause and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you know, if you're interested in supporting us, we are planning and thick in the planning for 2021. So it's a great time to be talking. And we'd love you to support our global community, our community here in the US, and our programs to make sure that the women that are growing and up and coming and want to excel in their career ambitions, that they have the type of education that they need to be competitive. So if you would like to support girlsintech.org, you can check out what we do. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, I know what you do, and it's incredible. And I just love you to pieces. I mean, I'm so thrilled at everything that's happening with Girls in Tech and with you. Take care, Taco Girl, and stay healthy. I'm looking forward to when we can hug. Let us see Taco before we wave off. Oh, Diana, look, from my heart to your home.
Thanks so much, Janice. Take good care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you too.